You're watching Fugitive Red Eye, and welcome to another live Raw review. Raw Review is a sub-series of Red Eye Raw. I've only done one other episode of Raw Review so far, and I reviewed the first season of TMNT from the 1987 series. Today, however, I will be reviewing an entire series, being Better Call Saul, which ran for 6 seasons and is a prequel/sequel to Breaking Bad. Now, I've mentioned on multiple occasions how I think in the world of fiction, Breaking Bad is literally the only perfect 10 that exists. I think it is objectively the best show ever written, ever acted, ever created. Breaking Bad is fucking phenomenal. Now, Better Call Saul, as I said, is both a prequel and a sequel to Breaking Bad, with the first 5 seasons being almost entirely a prequel, but with each season premiere having a flash forward that acts sort of as a sequel. Now, the 6th season does have mostly a prequel as well, but the last 4 episodes of the season are entirely a sequel. Better Call Saul, as you would imagine from the name if you're familiar with Breaking Bad, is an origin story to Saul Goodman, also known as James M. McGill, who is the lawyer in the Breaking Bad series. He's a criminal. He's not a criminal lawyer, he's a criminal lawyer. Basically, he's the one who has most of the underground connections that he helps Walter White get in touch with. And, he's a shady guy. But he was always a fan favorite, and so he got his own spinoff. And it also has the rise of other characters, such as Mike Ehrmantraut, the hitman, who's also a fan favorite, and one of my favorites as well. And, of course, Gustavo Fring, who is easily the best villain in the Breaking Bad series. But he's not a villain in Better Call Saul. He has more of a sympathetic light to him. And I do feel like he has less of a villainous vibe when you rewatch Breaking Bad and compare him to Walter, because I think Walter is probably worse as a person. But they're both fascinating characters nonetheless, and they're both criminal masterminds, obviously. Now, Better Call Saul, I think, takes place 4 years. It's either 4 or 6 years or something like that before Breaking Bad. It might be 6. And you get a lot of backstory to Jimmy, as he's called for most of the series, and then in the last couple seasons, he goes full-on Saul. He starts out as a fairly decent guy, and as the series progresses, becomes more and more of a shyster lawyer, like more of a, shady, underhanded con man. And that said, he was always you see in flashbacks, he used to con people prior to the series, when he called himself Slippin' Jimmy and would slip and, sue companies and stuff like that. Which, by the way, there is a cartoon spin-off called Slippin' Jimmy, and no, I'm not going to watch it. It looks god-awful. Better Call Saul does also feature cameos of other Breaking Bad characters. For instance, Tuco Salamanca, Hector Salamanca, Spooge, Emilio, Hank, and of course, Walt and Jesse do appear towards the end as well. Now, each season has its own little story arc to it. I watched Season 6 fairly recently, but I will admit it has been a while since I've watched through the earlier seasons, as I didn't rewatch this entire series for this review. I've only watched through Better Call Saul in its entirety once. In fact, each episode I've only seen once. I haven't seen... Oh, that's not true. I watched a couple of them twice when I was watching them with Danny, and I got ahead, and I just decided, fuck it, I'll rewatch a few anyway. I'm not doing anything better. Now, there are some people who say that Better Call Saul is better than Breaking Bad. Those people are wrong, but it is a decent spin-off. It's still a great series with a great cast of characters. The original characters to the series are great. Obviously, you got Kim Wexler, who I think they did a really good character arc with, which I didn't see coming at all from the start. You had Chuck McGill, and again, I didn't see the fact that he would backstab Jimmy, and he was actually the antagonist the whole time, holding him back, whereas Howard liked him. Didn't see that coming either. And I'll put in the title that there's spoilers in this, because there will be spoilers. I've already done a few. Nacho Varga, great character, and great death, too. Such a good character. Lalo Salamanca was easily one of my favorite villains in the franchise between the two series. I do feel like the conclusion to his arc was a little rushed, but overall I thought it was good. And it's always good to get more Mike and Gus, obviously. Howard Hamlin was a great character, and again, also really good death. Overall, I think the series is mostly on par with Breaking Bad. I will, however, say, I think that the 6th season is kind of lesser than the rest. Now, that's not to say that I don't like the ending. In fact, I really like the ending. I just feel like the 6th season is kind of rushed. Even though it does have more episodes than any of the other seasons, because the seasons 1 through 5 were each only 10 episodes. Season 6 did what Breaking Bad did, where it had a split season, where it had the first half and then the second half. There wasn't as much of a wait in between, if I recall. To be fair, it's been a while since Breaking Bad finished. And the difference is Breaking Bad had 8 episodes for the first half and 8 episodes for the second, whereas this had 7 and 7 for a total of 14 episodes in the season. I think the first half was all phenomenal and easily on par with the first 5 seasons. Wrong button, sorry about that. I think that the second half was good, and in fact, I really liked the ending, but I think it was kind of rushed. Like, yeah, they've been building up this sequel stuff with Saul's new identity, Gene, for the entire series, but it all concludes in just 4 episodes, and they really rushed it out. And a lot has to happen in those 4 episodes to resolve the plot. I also have very mixed feelings about the fact that Saul took to identity theft to get back in the game. I thought that was really weird. I don't know if I really agreed with it as a story choice, but overall, the way it ends is fine. I really like the little bit of redemption he gets at the end, where he actually comes clean about everything on trial. And it was clear that he only did it because he didn't want Kim to get in more trouble. Because originally, he proved he was still a good lawyer by, talking them down severely on charges, but then decides to come clean at the end about everything and get the full 86-year charge or whatever it was. I think the characters were done really well. I think the story was really good. I just think that they should have given a little bit more time to the Lalo resolution, and I think that the fact that they rushed it out fairly quick in the first half of the season, the first half of the season, they rush out most of it, and then they finish it off right when the season picks back up. And then, I don't know, it just felt kind of rushed. I feel like they needed at least one more season to properly build up the Gene story. I feel like they should have done the sequel thing as its own entire season. But that said, overall, I still think the 6th season was really good. I liked the ending. I like the moment at the end where Kim and Jimmy have one little scene together in the jail where they're sharing a cigarette. I thought that was really good. I liked that he came clean and had that little bit of redemption. I thought that was really cool because, I really like Saul as a character. Again, I'm not the biggest fan that he went through the identity theft route because it just seemed kind of weird and out of place to me. But nevertheless, that wasn't enough to dampen it too much. I would say this series I would give overall probably a 9, maybe an 8.5. I'd probably give it an 8.5. Like I said, Breaking Bad is a perfect 10. I think Better Call Saul is probably an 8.5 for me. I still think it's really good, and it's definitely an adequate follow-up. And I think if you're a fan of Breaking Bad and you haven't seen Better Call Saul, you are absolutely missing out. But I still do think Breaking Bad is better. But I was glad to get some of the universe expanded. There's a few little inconsistencies, too, in Better Call Saul, which you could argue are just lies with Jimmy, right? Like, just Saul with his lies, obviously. He said he had no idea who Gus Fring was and he never met him. And while I don't think they actually ever do meet face-to-face, he is the one who kind of helps Mike investigate him early on. They never do talk to each other. But I feel like he would have known who he was, right? Was he just being careful with Walter, or is he just too oblivious to realize that Gus is that guy? I find that so strange. Not to mention, he made some comments about his ex-wife really riding his ass, and I don't see that happening. But then again, there was a lot of time skip, so maybe Kim was, resentful of what they did, and, maybe she hassled him for stuff. I don't know. Again, it could just be more of his, lying and conning and whatnot. But there's a couple of little things like that. Overall, you could explain them away, like I said, with either it being a lie, or maybe they're not lies. Maybe I just, maybe I just misinterpret the way the characters would act. And maybe he was too dumb to realize that the fried chicken man was the big bad drug lord guy. I don't know. I liked how much we got of Hector in this series, and I like how we get to see how he was crippled. Because there was kind of a question there. It wasn't one that necessarily needed answering, but they gave us an answer nonetheless, and I'm glad they did. I think it's pretty cool and crazy the lengths Jimmy goes to with some of his lies. Like the way that he ruins Chuck's reputation, and the way that he also ruins Howard's reputation, both of which were really scummy things to do. Chuck had it coming, though. I don't feel like Howard has had it coming as much. I feel like they did him dirty, but I also felt like it was very in character for them to do so, because they were very resentful of Howard, and also it's the way the character was. So that one I didn't have a problem with. I just think Howard maybe didn't deserve that, whereas Chuck kind of did. Also, here's a question I had, right? Those, the Kettlemans, those, embezzlers. When they started their tax company, which, by the way, the show's getting sued for because it had some similarities in name to a real-life tax company, But the Kettlemans, they had this big Statue of Liberty inflatable in front of their building that's the exact same one that Saul has. So part of me thought that that was going to be something he got at some point. Do you think that's what happened, or do you think that's just coincidence, or do you think he saw it, got inspired, and bought one himself? I don't know. Maybe that's me reading too much into it, but they were so similar if they're not the same one. Maybe the crew had that one and they just decided to use it for two purposes. I don't know. Oh, there's also Huel. Huel is in this series too. You do get to see a good amount of him. So that was pretty... Well, not a good amount. Well, he's in a few episodes, so that was pretty cool. I also thought it was a really interesting choice stylistically that all the scenes that take place post-Breaking Bad are black and white. Or all the scenes that take place in current time, I should... Yeah, no, it's all the scenes that take place post-Breaking Bad. That's right. Because the other cameos were during Breaking Bad, like the scene with Walter and Saul together sharing that room at the Disappearers base. But yeah, overall, really great prequel and a okay sequel. Again, the sequel is very underplayed, but it's a great spin-off, great show. I absolutely recommend it. And I will definitely watch it again in the future. As I have watched Breaking Bad multiple times, I have no doubt I'll watch Better Call Saul multiple times as well. But maybe not to the same extent, because again, Breaking Bad is so good. But either way, they are both great shows, and if you like one, you'll like the other. This has been Fugitive Red Eye. Have a good one. Toodles.